This episode of Waiting for Review is sponsored by the concept of entropy. Entropy, when we want it to be cold and dark. Because I tell you, winter
like my
has
soul.
arrived. Yeah. Like I'm wearing my hoodie, I'm wearing sweatpants. It is cold and rainy outside. Like the temperature has dropped by like 20 degrees in Germany, like from one day to the other. Like summer is really, really over.
Yeah. Damn. We've got the opposite here. It's been popping off, mate. It's been very warm, very nice. Yeah. So
Fantastic.
there we are.
It's really good to hear. I mean, like at least the sun is going somewhere nice, you know? Like you deserve all the sun that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
What you also deserve is an early intro. So, hey, welcome to Waiting for Review, a show about the majestic indie developer lifestyle. Join your scintillating hosts, Dave and Daniel, that's me, and let's hear about a tiny slice of their thrilling lives. Join us while waiting for review.
Hey.
All right. Are we celebrating?
I'm celebrating a bit. Yeah, definitely.
What are we celebrating? Brett Summer?
Well, I'm probably not somebody who should be celebrating Brett Summer. No offense to anybody who is. I feel incredibly old, even touching on making jokes about Brett Summer. But no, not celebrating that. Although I do appreciate the good
Brett
shade of green.
Summer to all those who celebrate this holiest of holidays.
Indeed. And I must say, my main takeaway is that green sort of came back in fashion as a color. It's my favorite color. So green is my favorite color. That's not been a bad thing to see. But moving swiftly on, what am I celebrating? What's been going on? GoVJ, my app, celebrates its 9th birthday in the last week.
9th?
So yeah, amazing. 9 years ago, 9th. I mean, I should probably celebrate harder for the 10th next year, but when I realized the day was rolling round, it's like, I'm going to celebrate this. I'm going to do something. And what I have done is I put messages out on Instagram, on my mailing list, and all of that sort of thing. And I've asked users of my video app to send me photos, video clips, anything they're proud of, anything where they're using the app, because I'm going to put together a bit of a 9th birthday celebration reel. So,
fantastic!
That's what I've been up to. Yeah, I've had quite a few lovely bits of video and photos and messages from people. So that's going to be a job for this weekend to pull all that together. Still haven't decided on the music yet. That'll be very important. But yeah, it's kind of funny, you know. 9 years ago.
9 years though. Like,
yeah,
does it still have any of the original code? Like,
no,
or is it
really.
like a ship of Theseus, where like just like every single line of the code has been replaced?
It's a ship of Theseus for sure. There's been two distinct rebuilds since then. Yeah,
the code of Theseus.
So I'm trying to think it through. I think the original stack was Objective-C, and then it was Objective-C with Swift view controllers and everything sort of moving that direction. I migrated the video engine to Swift, and then things kind of stayed in a holding pattern for probably 4 or 5 years with the app in a lot of ways. I was kind of just cranking, small updates, bug fixes, that sort of thing. Largely because we moved to New Zealand, right? So 2015, the app launched. 2017 was all about emigrating to another country. So, that's one of the beautiful things about indie dev, I think, is that you can just kind of go, okay, I'm going to leave the product where it is. And as long as you're happy about where it is, or at least, there's nothing major you want to do, you can just keep the app going in the App Store and just, cruise control a little bit in that sense. So that's what happened when I moved to New Zealand. And then sometime between 2019 and 2020, I started getting things together to do another rebuild because SwiftUI happened. And I was like, this has got to be moved over to that. Event that took a little while. I'm trying to think this one through. I think it was 2022 that the big rebuild sort of went out that completely nuked the old design. And then once more, there's been one more rebuild, which we spoke all about at the beginning of this year, which was the removal of the design pattern I used for SwiftUI. Yes. Thank you. Reactions on the video there as I put my thumb up. I got one of those lovely bubbles that Apple give us. But yeah, anyway, so major rebuild since then, lots of work. Yes.
Yeah, I get.
But long story short, Daniel, lots of rebuilds, lots of that.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. It's I want to just mention just briefly the one piece of video, photos mainly, that somebody has sent through to me that I really, really loved is a group called Bioluminescence in Australia. And I'll link them up in the show notes because what they do is they do workshops with kids, and they have a fleet of iPads. And what they do is they get the kids to do videos and animations, and they edit them in an app called LumaFusion on the iPads. And then, as this is a big space that they've got to work in with a lot of outside space, and as the sun goes down, the projectors go on, and they let the kids use my app on those iPads to play their animations and videos back and do a performance.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's probably been the highlight actually for me of this whole 9th birthday thing, is to get feedback like that and to see some of those things. So yeah, shout out to the Bioluminescence crew. I will link them in the show notes. You can have a bit of a look, bit of a gander if you fancy, to sort of see what they did. It's really quite fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Congrats. Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds really nice.
Tell me about yours. You've got an anniversary as well. What's going on?
TelemetryDeck has turned 4 years old. Not the product per se. That's a bit older, depending on like where you put the actual conception date. But the company in some form, like, because like we had a different name in the beginning that turns out was already copyrighted by someone else. And the start was a bit slow, right? But we kind of decided on the 1st of September as our official birthday. And so, we have reached 4 years of existence, which is longer than most startups exist. So I'm actually kind of proud of that.
Yeah, it's pretty rocking, mate. I remember, and it's still very much the pre-days. I do remember that sort of pre-bit just before, because I remember speaking to you and actually getting an early demo of the SDK. We did that on a screen share. It's been fantastic, obviously, podcasting with you since then as well, and getting to sort of know more about how the product's built.
Yeah, of course, like, because that's kind of how we know each other, because at the beginning I really wanted to go on a few developer podcasts and talk about TelemetryDeck, and so I was an interviewee on the previous season Waiting for Review, and then you kind of invited me again for a second interview, and then you were like, hey, this is actually pretty fun. Can we should we do this more often?
Mm-hmm.
And
That
I sent you
second
my
interview,
fees,
Daniel.
and yeah,
the second interview, you turned the tables on me. You interviewed me on my own podcast, which
I did. Yeah, I remember. That was
set
fun.
the scene.
So yeah, memorable stations along the way are incorporation into a GmbH, which is the German form of limited liability company, I think. And also the complete rewrite from an iPhone and Mac app into a web application, because it's just able to be used by more people. And also the great switching from PostgreSQL to Apache Druid in the background of 2021. Well, the end of 21. I know this because I have a complete copy of all the telemetry data in various places, and it's kind of in folders.
Yeah.
Or ordered by separated by year. So I got one folder. This is 2021. This is the Postgres database dump, and ever since 2022, it's just huge chunks of JSON files. And yes, they are encrypted and they are secure, but it's good to have backups.
Mm-hmm. It's very good to have backups, and yeah, it's kind of fantastic that you've got that sort of sedimentary bedrock of data for TelemetryDeck that goes back that far.
Totally. And back in comparison to what the amount of data that we're kind of dealing with now, those were ludicrously small amounts of data, but still was so hard to deal with. So I kind of love that. This, we're growing with our challenges in that kind of sense.
Oh, we're back. We're back.
We're back. Had a quick intermission.
Yes.
I hope we had some light jazz or something.
I'll see what I can find when I put it together.
Dum, dum, dum. But yeah, we were done with the topic anyway, I think. There was no big parties regarding our anniversaries, but Lisa actually sent me a huge flower bouquet.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent her some cremant. Is that the English word? It's like champagne, but not from the Champagne region, sparkly wine, basically, but the good one.
Yeah, I don't know what I would call that, but that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. And so that is really cool.
Awesome.
Do you want to talk about the new iPhones?
Oh, okay.
They are so exciting. They are, especially the Pro phones, they're available in 4 fantastic, colorful, rich, vibrant colors.
Are you sure? I thought they were beige, and beige this year.
No, they are. They are available in light gray, dark gray, medium gray, and sand gray. Oh, I'm sorry, desert sand gray.
I've had some quite strong thoughts on this. The colors that they have released the regular iPhones on actually look really quite good to me.
Yes,
all of them. All of them, and even hot pink, or whatever they've called it.
I love that one. That looks so cool. And the turquoise. Turquoise.
So I don't understand why they need to distinguish the Pro phones by making the Pro phones boring. It just seems like a swing and a miss.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm pretty aware of is every time they have an interesting color for the Pro, it sells out, right? The purple iPhone 14 did really well.
I have the blue 12, and it's just really nice. It's such a nice color.
So yeah, again, I don't really understand this year's lineup in that sense. But in any case, it was very nice to see the colors they've got for the regular phone. I often have come back to a point where I wish Apple would regain some of the whimsy it kind of had with the original iMac era. That
No, the
sort of
whimsy is
sense.
gone. The whimsy
Yeah,
has left the building.
yeah, and that always seems like a shame. So the colors on the regular phone feel like a toe back in the water for Apple towards a little bit more whimsy. I just wish it would extend across the line. You know, like I don't know if I'm going to buy a new Mac, you know, and it was to come in one of these more vibrant colors. Like, don't just reserve it for the iMac. Do the laptops as well. Go all out. But
That's
this is
also
today's
wait.
Apple.
Are there MacBook Airs in the iMac colors? Because that would be consistent, right? Like if there's iPhones
Yeah,
but not Pro iPhones in the nice colors, are there
no,
colorful computers only only the iMacs and the
that's right.
MacBook Air in blue, right?
Uh, ooh, is there a
There's a
blue
dark blue
MacBook Air?
MacBook Air. Yeah, I ordered
Uh,
that for our employee the other day.
right. But is it really a blue color, or is it just more sort of
It
gray
is
with a
exactly the
hint of
same
blue?
as my phone.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah,
sweet.
it's
Yeah, that's
bluish,
nice.
dark, a bit
Yeah.
darker maybe. But yeah,
Oh, I hadn't actually clocked that they'd done that. That's cool.
yeah, that's like
Um,
the. I don't know if they have updated it, but it is available as an M2,
mm-hmm.
and so yeah.
Nice. I think it's probably fair to say, given how we're talking about it all, this year's event for the iPhone. What do you think? I sort of feel like it was a bit of a washout for me in some ways, like a bit of a mixed thing.
Yeah. So, um, like when I was a little boy,
Hmm.
Apple events used to be like super exciting because every year, like they would like show something that was like really new and different. And of
Yep.
course, those years are gone. Like right, we like especially the smartphones,
Mm-hmm.
but also computers have kind of entered a very stable era where it's all about the just like the diminishing returns, the slight increases, the slight improvements, which is fine,
Yes.
I guess. Like I kind of wish it would change, but on the other hand, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, this event this year felt especially boring somehow, and I think that's because of like one, the iPhone form factor as it is has been the same for ages now. Like the iPhone 10 was
Mm-hmm.
the first that was in this configuration. We're now up to 16.
Yep.
I assume there was a few S's in there. So like how many years has it been? Like 6 years at least, but maybe even 8 or
Mm-hmm.
10.
6 years.
Um,
Yeah, just about. Maybe.
where they don't do S's anymore, right?
No, they don't. They don't.
Okay, so it's like 10, 11, 12, and so on. Yeah, then I assume
Yeah, there
it's
was a
been 10. Anyway,
there
it's
was a 10s.
tennis.
Yeah.
um anyway, yeah, it's been a while, and like visually what has changed was mostly like in the last few years, like the island. the
Yep.
I never can remember what property the island has. Is it a magical island? Is it
Dynamic.
a dynamic island? Of course, the dynamic
Mm-hmm.
island has shrunk slightly. The screen has gotten better and better, and also the camera of course has gotten better and huger. Like
Yes.
like the three burner stove is a description that I've seen thrown around, which is very apt. So it's nice, and I mean this year they even added a new button, right? They added the camera control
Yep.
button slash
Yep.
like feature element or UI element, but still like it is it's ripe for a change, especially since the rest of the phone industry is slowly honing in on foldable phones. And I get why foldable phones are still too early for Apple, because Apple is the company that looks at a product Apple is the company that looks at a product category once it has matured to a certain degree. Whereas foldable phones are still very much like immature. They're like the companies are still trying out so much stuff. Like just recently, I saw a video
Yeah.
of like the first tri-fold phone,
I saw
which
that. Yes.
so awesome. Like it's so gimmicky, especially in the design that they had. Like they had like a fake red leather or something on the
Mm-hmm.
back. But still, fantastic. We saw this in the TV show Westworld, and I want it so much. Um, and I get that this is too early for Apple. The creases would not feel as high quality and like as Apple products are supposed to be. It would probably be too expensive, and also they couldn't make it in the sheer amount of just numbers that iPhones are being produced at, right? But so it would be nice to have like some breath of fresh air in there. That's the one thing. The second thing is they
It
introduced a
would.
few things
It
as
really would.
new that were just like, hey, the AirPods Max now have different colors, and they still cost the same, even though they're a 3-year-old product. That's the thing where I'm like, like at least give him a reduce the price slightly. Come on. And the third thing that made it kind of boring for me, or not boring, but I seem to become a bit cynical, yeah, or more and more cynical of how extremely strongly Apple is pushing the health angle, right? So that whereas like the Apple that we know that is right now being very 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 strong arming like whole industries, like especially developers, but also like stuff like that. um this Apple is suddenly standing there and being like, we care so much about your health,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of implying like, oh, you might die if you're not wearing your Apple Watch. Better wear that Apple Watch. Better have your phone with you, or you might die. And I don't know, like it used to be a bit cringy, but like now the cringe has increased.
The cringe factor has definitely increased.
That being said, I love the new Apple Watch. I'm not gonna get one because mine is still fine, but I love the new design. It's very cool, and also it netted me one of my most favorited Mastodon posts for a while. Um, which because they introduced the Apple Watch as it has a wide form factor to be a rounder, and I also
Yeah.
have a wide form factor to appear rounder.
Brilliant. I'll link that up in the show notes there, Daniel.
Yeah. What did you think though?
What did I think? Oh my word. Well, a lot of the same sort of vibes, I guess, really, which is that the cringe factor definitely turned up this year. I'm not really sure why that felt that way for me. I think it's because they've not changed the format. Like products to one side and whimsy and form factors to one side. The actual format of the event could have been one from a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The delivery, it's polished to within an inch of its eyeballs, and that's great. But I have seen other events and things with less polish that have just felt more genuine. I'm actually thinking back to, I'm thinking of some of the things like Kotlin Conf, actually, that were more dev focused. But I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it in the same way as previous years, and I think it's because not a lot of change, quite a high cringe factor, um, and here and there, I guess, just some of what they're presenting seeming like it's um, not really in touch with broader market kind of considerations and that sort of thing. It felt very much like I can see the divide here now, like in terms of Apple are making these very expensive products, and you've got this bubble that sort of operates in this more, uh, higher spending demographic, if you like. And I was sort of looking and thinking, yeah, I just don't feel the broader connection in the same way as I might have done, and um, I don't know what I would like, what I would prefer. I think I would prefer, um, yeah, just a bit of a change and a bit of a leaning into more of like the fun factor of what you can do with these things.
But that's also, I think, the other thing. Like
Yeah.
usually, a lot of the presentation is also about the features of the new iOS, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, the features of the new iOS are not coming. They are
Yeah.
not coming to Europe. They are
Yep.
not coming with the phone. And some of them might be arriving as early as October. Some of them might be arriving like by September next year.
Yep.
Um, because Apple kind of slept on AI for a while.
Yeah, and I feel, I don't particularly blame them for sleeping on AI in some ways, because there's a whole element to that where it it's going through a bit of a bubble, and actually how this stuff is going to get used more longer term is sort of shaking out of that, I think. And that's typical Apple, is wait until somebody else has kind of astroturf stuff, then come in and try and sort of say, put their own spin on it.
I agree partially, but I have to strongly disagree on the Siri part. Like
Mm-hmm.
Apple owns Siri, and Siri has been like bad for 10 years. And like
Yes.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, like like GPTs were already on the horizon. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
already clear, yes, we are going to steer towards a future where like computers can like not understand, but like parse natural language way better. And instead of like starting to build on that, they kind of just hired and then fired like at least 4 or 5 different like Siri directors and never
Mm-hmm.
really got their feet off the ground. And so that is like just as an an own goal of them basically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You could stick a GPT interface around Siri, keep all the hooks very, very the same, and deliver a much better service through Siri. That sort of seems relatively
Yeah.
clear. Um, so yeah, I'd agree. That's definitely a miss that's been going on with today's Apple. And I think it's just, if I take all of this stuff into context, and especially the way they've been behaving in the EU with the DMA and everything else there, I kind of look and I go, yeah, this is. I described it on Mastodon as, this is Apple's boomer era, right? Um,
Yeah.
and please, I mean, I can rag on Apple for all of these bits and bobs, but really, it's coming from a place of love, I guess, in a sense of, what I want better. I want stuff to be um, fun, engaging, for there to be this creator aspect to what's going on with their products, and there still is a whole bunch of that. That's not just disappeared overnight. We've got iPads with pencils. We've got, the platform itself is still very, very fun to code for. The APIs and the SDK, I think I've described it in the past as it works like Lego bricks when you know what you're doing. There is still so much that I love about the platform. It's just, it is hard at times to hold that against this uh disconnected boomer kind of persona that the company's going through.
Yeah, you say that you say this with love, but
Mm.
ah, like I say this with love too, but Tim Cook has got to go. Like he
Oof.
has
Yeah.
had a very successful 10 years at Apple,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he has earned a respectful retirement
Yep.
because like as in like a TikTok development cycle where like you have the talk cycles where you just like optimize everything and just like
Mm-hmm.
get the last bit of performance out of things. You need every now and then you need a tick cycle where you actually just like experiment and improve things. And Tim
Yes.
Cook has been amazing at getting every last squeezing every last bit of performance in revenue out of Apple, out of services, out of hardware, out of like
Yep.
keeping old devices in the lineup just so they can sell them at reduced prices, out of like not increasing RAM until it actually like also hindered their AI roll up, and they kind of had to jump a generation of chips in the normal iPhone now.
Yes.
Um, I think it's time that like someone else takes the reins at Apple, who is a bit more like happy to experiment with things.
I'd agree. I think it's what I see, to be honest, is that okay, if it was me, if I could wave a magic wand myself and kind of go, okay, what do I think would be good for Apple? I feel like it's not just Tim Cook, it's actually that they've got all of these older guys, and I'm not trying to be ageist here or anything, but you've got these very tenured, very established, typically men, um, who are guiding Apple. I mean, we've got Air Force One with Craig Federighi. Um, there's the other guy who I can never remember his name. Is it Phil Schiller? There we go. And what I feel really is it's not just, oh, Tim Cook's got to go. We've got to have a new leadership. It's more than that. It's the actual team that is getting in front of people needs to shift. Like I would suggest they had to reboot everything. You would need, yes, a new figurehead, a new CEO of some sort. But actually, we should be introducing a new team around. We used to have Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive, and it was very clear there was this sort of partnership of vision and design going on. We don't have that anymore. I
Right.
couldn't actually tell you who's really driving all of the design and UX at Apple. Um, there will
Is
be a
it Jeff
person.
Williams?
Yeah, but here we go, right? I'm not sure it needs to be complete cult of personality kind of scenarios that you've ended up with these really strong figures.
No, Jeff Williams is the COO. He's kind of like
Okay.
the next
Yeah.
CEO, like rumored to be. But like they
Yeah.
have like one chief designer. It's just like he's
Hmm.
also not very inspired, I think.
And this is it. I don't think it needs to be, um, like I say, a cult of personality of big figureheads all the time. I'd love to see a cult of team though. Like, uh, what are Apple's internal values? What are the way the team are getting together to really make these things come to life? Can they feature some of their uh, all stars within the company through this, like we see every now and again with some of the keynote stuff in WWDC. We do see some of the lead developers for different areas bubbling up
Right.
through the sessions. I feel like the same thing should be true of the leadership team, of the product team, of everybody sort of driving all of this together. It would be lovely to sort of think it's not just, oh, it's Tim Cook and he's not Steve Jobs. It's like, no, we've got this fantastic team who are coming together to then make these things that are, very human orientated, very artistically orientated. I think that's a vibe that Apple has historically had and is now failing to have,
Oh yeah.
really get across. Um, and for me, that would be the reboot, right?
Right. And you might say, "Oh, but if Tim Cook is also gone, like Tim Cook was such a like worked closely with Steve, so if he's also gone, then all the spirit that Steve Jobs kind of imbued in the company will also be gone." And to that,
Mm-hmm.
I say, A, you don't imbue a company with spirit. Like companies are entities. But B, what I really
Yeah.
want to say is it can be like put the right team in there and there
Mm-hmm.
can be a fantastic company that is like that has the values that we liked about Apple. Like look at
Yeah.
Microsoft, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is not a whimsy company, right? But they have made such a 180 of in the last 10 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
from oh yeah, Windows needs to be everywhere, to hey, we're now suddenly the company that half of the clouds runs on, and
Yeah.
that every like web developer uses, and that like has a almost a chokehold over like AI in some places,
Mm-hmm.
and that is like an integral part of so much of modern culture, just because they make so much of the backbone of that. And it's like,
Yes.
wow, that is a incredible pivot basically
Yep.
in startup speak. But yeah, like so you can revitalize something and it might be different, but it's still like nice and mostly helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's it. It needs, but it's one of those things. I don't feel like Microsoft ever really acknowledged fully. Hey, we've gone down a bit of a dead end on stuff. You sort of say the turnaround in the last 10 years. We had their approach to mobile floundered in a lot of ways. Windows phones are
Yeah.
not a thing. But what I haven't really seen has been any big sort of like any big bang of all of this. It's been more of a series of steps that Microsoft have taken that have
Oh,
now
but
added
that
up
is,
this way.
yeah, of course
Yeah,
you can't just do one big bang, right? But
yeah,
basically that is what Satya Nadella has done to the company.
yeah.
And at the same time, it's Tim Cook who has like been able to lead Apple like very
Mm-hmm.
successfully, but at the same time has calcified, is that a word? Like
Calcified.
calcified. That's what I mean.
Yep,
The company, right? Like
that's it.
it's been a good like step by step, and step by step, every step was probably the right step. But
Mm-hmm.
no, the direction needs to change, and it will take a while to change, regardless of who's
Yes.
taking the reins. But it probably will need to change at some point. Otherwise, Apple will like slowly like go down into like obscurity at some point.
Yeah.
Not in
I
the next 5 years, but like somewhere, sometimes.
bit by bit, yeah. And I see this, and you know, I've been looking into cross-platform development and sort of looking outside of the ecosystem and that sort of thing. And part of that for me, it runs off the back of this, right? It's not that I want to go, oh, I'm not making iPhone apps or anything anymore. You know, like there's no big thing there. It's more a case of going, okay, I can see we've got this sort of direction here. I want to personally diversify. I've actually taken a bit of a look against what I'm building and what I want to achieve with the apps and products that I make, and it's more of a strategy for me to go, well, I want to connect with lots of different sorts of people,
Right.
and that vibe that I was sort of saying to you just earlier about seeing all of this playback and realizing just how strong it is a moneyed demographic underpinning everything with Apple now. And I think it always has been to a large
Yeah.
extent, right?
Yeah. We might
It's
have
just,
not been as like just like it might not have been as visible to us personally
yes,
earlier, but totally like
yeah,
when I was younger, like Apple was the rich kid stuff that I just couldn't afford. Now I
yeah,
can. So
yeah.
it feels like, oh yeah,
And
this is normal stuff, but it's still rich kid stuff.
exactly. And so there's a bit there for me, which is I'm looking at, you know, bringing my app to Android and that side of things, because again, I want it to be accessible, and um, that's the right thing for me to be looking towards. Bringing this all back to the actual Apple event and everything, though, and where Apple's at, I think this is the bit that worries me a little bit. Is that disconnection? If they keep going down that path, that divide is going to be even bigger, if you like, and yeah, I don't just want to be making things that are only for people with lots and lots of money. Like people with a bit of money, or people who have, you know, saved and gone, okay, I want to get an iPhone or an iPad because it's got this longevity and everything I appreciate about it. Yeah, for sure, I understand that, but I don't want this complete divide to be, um, I guess, to be so huge. And it's I'm focusing on this, and perhaps it's a bit amusing. This is what I got out of the event, but yeah, I don't know. It just didn't click with me for all of these reasons. And I fell asleep towards the end because it was 5 in the morning. It's 5 in the morning that it starts in New Zealand.
That might have something to do with it. Like for me,
Yeah,
it's like just prime time in the evening, right?
yeah,
It's just like you sit down at 7 p.m. You just had dinner maybe, or you have a snack. I had a
hmm
glass of wine, and it was just nice. It,
that's nice. That's
and
nice.
especially with the wine, like you're very much more
In the zone.
sympathetic
Yeah.
towards that.
Oh,
So
I'd had coffee. I'd had coffee
fantastic.
and some biscuits. But
Right. So thoughts about Apple Watch,
ooh,
if any?
felt like the Ultra got sidelined a little bit.
Yes, yes, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, very much like the direction towards being thinner. That looked cool. Other than that, solid update. If you're in the market for an update, brilliant. Um, but you know, for me personally, I'll keep running my watch for another year or two before I even think about upgrading.
Yeah, same. I have the 7, and it's
Mm-hmm.
still just like fantastic. At some point, I want another one.
Yep.
Just when the battery will go, or maybe like if a new, like I was gonna say if a new screen size gets introduced, but I think that just happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, not this year. Um, Same as with the AirPods, though. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I know why they did it, but it still felt weird that they kind of reintroduced existing products with just like what amounts to a color change. Like they
Yeah.
reintroduced the Ultra 2 with now it's very black, and they had a few accessories for it, but it's still the Ultra 2 that is now like has the not no longer the largest screen because
Yep.
the large Apple 110 now has that. And I don't know, like it feels a bit weird. Like I know like it makes sense to be like, hey, this is our whole product lineup here. Like
Yep.
we have to talk about it somehow, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know
Yep.
what I would have done differently. It just felt a bit weird. Like, hey, this is the same product as last year. It is the same price.
Yes. And the same thing happened with the AirPods Max
Right,
as well, right?
right.
Um, that's got a USB
And
port
the
on it now, and it's the
Pro
same
actually.
price. Um,
Did the AirPods Pro get really renewed? Because they kind of
yeah,
reintroduced, they introduced the new AirPods that have lots of the Pro features, except the like sticking in your ear bit. Um, but I think they also just like reintroduced the regular AirPods Pro, right? I don't think
that's
it's
right. So
actually new.
I'm looking on the page today, and we've got AirPods is flagged with new. AirPods Pro is not, although it does say that AirPods Pro will soon feature a scientifically validated hearing test and clinical grade hearing aid capability, which is kind of
Yeah,
cool. And the AirPods Max just shows new colors
right.
against it.
Which nothing against that, but at the
No,
same time, like especially the AirPods Max, like come on, this is like drop the price slightly. Like this is a bit embarrassing.
yeah, I would have said like drop the price slightly, you give it USB still, and everybody keeps on trucking for another year. Then next year they could drop the price a little more and
Especially
introduce an
since
updated version.
it has worse features than all of the other AirPods now. But
Yeah,
it's still the most expensive one, and that's like
yep,
that feels wrong.
that does a bit. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at all of these right now, and yeah, none of it really resonates too hard in terms of how they've gone. But the new AirPods, I think that was probably a good direction. A
Mm-hmm.
whole load of fun stuff for people who have that model. Um, the Pro with the hearing aid stuff, that's really quite interesting to me. My wife is deaf,
Mm-hmm.
and the type of performance they would offer as hearing aids wouldn't really help her. But we have said for a while, like it feels like the technology in the AirPods Pro is sort of getting closer to being hearing aid style
Right.
technology. It's solving a very similar problem, right? It's boosting sound into your ear. Um, so yeah, I think that for me was pretty cool to see.
I mean, Apple's demographic is getting older and older. You gotta find something to be able to sell them.
Yeah. But also, I mean, the other thing is hearing aids are damn expensive, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got you know mild to moderate hearing loss, and AirPods Pro with the right mold is going to help you, especially with their um, hearing tests that they can do and then configure for you. That's actually quite a door opening. In all of my cynicism earlier, this is one that is like this is to me this is really quite cool because it's an enabler for people. Um, so yeah, I really like that actually. Have remains to be seen how it will actually work for people and how good it will be. But I think that was a definite hit in terms of like enabling people. So I quite like that.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. That's pretty cool. Um, it's gonna look weird at
Oh yeah,
first though, like someone with AirPods in. On the other hand, like I like have now started sometimes like at the cashier in the supermarket, just like leaving them in as well, just
yep.
switching to transparency mode. And I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes feel like, oh, am I being like rude? But at the same time, it's like whatever. Like
Yeah,
I'm not being like
yeah.
rude on purpose. And like it should be pretty clear that I'm in transparency mode. Question though to you, like, are you going to buy any of the things that they introduced?
Okay, so there's a point where upgrading from my iPhone 14 Pro would only make sense on two factors for me. It would be that A, I get to play with the new shiny, which is always fun. That doesn't feel like a big enough pull for that amount of money. But the
It's
B,
not a lot different shiny, right? Especially from the 14 to the 16.
yeah, it's actually less shiny, to be honest. But it would enable me to complete the hand-me-down cycle in our household, and that would then help my eldest in terms of his YouTube activities and other things that he uses his phone for. If he was to then get the 14 Pro from me, so there's a point there where my getting the new kit sort of completes that cycle. Not enough to pull me right now to go, hell yeah, I want to go and do that now. I'm sort of looking and going, yeah, give it another month or so, let them get the initial orders out of the way, get the first release of iOS 18 out of the way, and then maybe I'll look at it. But otherwise, yeah, definitely eyeballing the AirPods Pro 2, even though they're not updated, in a sense of, the ones I've got are starting to age out a bit. So that could be nice. But other than that, there's a lot there that looks good if you're in the market, but I'm kind of not. Everything's working, so it's all good. How about you there, Daniel?
I have hemmed and hawed for a while, but I'm gonna get a phone. Right now I have the 12 Pro Max, and I feel like the difference, especially in camera and screen, are significant enough to upgrade from the 12 to the 16. So I'm gonna get the 16 Pro Max in desert color, because that is the least boring color of all the colors. Although it is still
I've got to go look.
Very boring.
This is the downside to falling asleep, Daniel. I don't actually know what they all look like.
I used to have I had the 6 Plus in gold. So yeah.
Okay.
I probably because right now I'm like without a case all the time. But I might just put it into a case that has a more interesting color. But I was like, I'm gonna get the most interesting of the colors nonetheless. Like I was like I was kind of like trying to decide between this one and the deep black one.
Yep.
But I think the deep black is just everybody's gonna get that. And since they don't have a blue one, which is like atrocious, you're just gonna get the shiny one. I have decided on going with 256 gigs of memory disk, which is the smallest now, which is
and the
good.
Pro Max.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 128.
Because I looked at my 16 Pro Max. I'm sorry, my 12 Pro Max has 256, which used to be the medium size.
Yes,
and it is half full.
Okay.
So I'm feeling like, because I have iCloud photos and everything. So I feel like that's fine. I'm going to take more video for TikTok and stuff in the future, but also that also gets synced to iCloud and then not being stored on the phone, and I feel okay with that.
Right. No, that's cool. I'm just looking at it now, and I think that'll be a lovely device to go from a 12 to. The 12 is no slouch as well, still, right?
Right.
So,
but I'll gain 5x zoom, which is going to be pretty awesome. I'll gain a way better screen that goes to the edges and has ProMotion now, which I don't have. And I seem to be able to gain a few hours of battery life, which is also very nice to have.
Nice.
And also the camera button, and the action button. So for me, it is actually an upgrade with 2 more buttons. Like it used to be iPhones got less buttons, fewer buttons.
I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, that'll be a nice upgrade, Daniel. And I feel a bit mean for sort of ragging on how boring stuff has been, because I'm looking at that now and it is nice. Like that's the other thing. Like, just because there's not been dramatically new changes or lots of really bright colors and all the rest of it, doesn't mean that these devices are not going to be lovely to use and have all of the things. Yeah, that's going to be a nice upgrade for you. Like I say, I'm tempted, but very much in a sense of it helps the circle of life through our household. I would definitely appreciate the better camera, the better zoom. Yeah, and incidentally, Daniel, I'm actually going to be taking more videos for things like TikTok and Instagram and that side of things over the next few months as well. So
I posted a TikTok just now.
Dang, you're going to have to link it in the show notes so I can link it here.
I shall do that. Cool. We have more topics, but I think we don't have the time to really talk about them.
I think this is the show, Daniel, and that's okay, because we can certainly talk about some of those other topics next week.
Totally. All right, fans, chat. I mean, chat. Thanks for listening. Please rate us on iTunes and YouTube. Send us emails at contact@waitingforreview.com and join our Discord. The link is in the show notes. Dave, where can people find and follow you?
You can find me on Mastodon at dave@social.lightbeamapps.com. You can find out all about my apps at lightbeamapps.com, and you can see my attempts at engaging with my users on Instagram at lightbeamapps.com, all one word. I'll link that in the show notes.
Fantastic.
How about yourself, Daniel?
All right. To find more about what I do, go to Google, type in DuckDuckGo, click on DuckDuckGo, type in TelemetryDeck, click on TelemetryDeck, scroll down all the way, click on Instagram, and on Instagram, click on TikTok. And then you go to the TelemetryDeck TikTok account that is called TelemetryDeck.
Yeah, I'm not doing any of that, Daniel. I'll link you properly in the show notes. I'll link you properly in the show notes.
Fantastic. All right. Have a great evening. No, have a great day even. I'll have a great evening.
Mm-hmm.
And see you soon.
Take care, Daniel.